Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that's pretty inescapable if you're in the trucking business.
And it's a tough one personally.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're talking about asset retrenchment. And, for most operators, just hearing that term, it can feel like a punch to the gut.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, those trucks, those trailers, they aren't just lines on a balance sheet, are they?
Not at all. They're years of hard work, their ambition, their investment. So that feeling that retrenchment means you're failing or taking a huge step backward, it's completely understandable.
But that's the feeling we need to challenge today.
Exactly. Because
Mhm.
what our analysis shows is that when you approach it strategically, asset retrenchment is actually the opposite of failure. It's a core survival tool
A survival tool.
and a growth mechanism. It's about protecting the business when you're facing, cash flow crunches or struggling with repayments, or maybe the most important part, carrying assets that just aren't performing.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. Let's get past that initial gut reaction. We want to define what this really is and then give you the clear, unmistakable signals that tell you it's time to stop reacting and start making a deliberate, strategic choice.
We want to give you the tools for that aha moment, the moment you realize, okay, I'm not closing down, I'm restructuring for strength.
Perfect. So let's start right there with the definition, because I think a lot of people hear retrenchment and immediately think liquidation.
That's the
Yeah.
biggest misconception, and it's why people wait too long. We are not talking about selling everything off and shutting the doors.
It's more targeted than that.
It's highly targeted. Think of it like surgery, not amputation. It's about making a calculated, deliberate choice to reduce or replace or restructure a specific asset that just doesn't align with your business reality today.
And that reality, the current operational environment, really makes this whole topic crucial, doesn't it?
It's a volatility cocktail out there. The margin for error right now is just razor thin.
You look at the reports. Fuel costs are constantly rising.
Constantly. Then you've got maintenance costs, tires going up every quarter it seems, and then the big one, rising interest rates and tighter terms from financiers.
So a truck that was, let's say, marginally profitable just a year ago.
Could be actively bleeding cash today without any change in how much you're using it.
Wow.
The wrong mix of assets in this kind of environment, it's like a silent drain on the whole operation. Every mile that underperforming truck drives, it's not just failing to make a profit. It's sucking up resources.
Resources that your good trucks need.
Exactly. Management time, cash for repairs, insurance. It all adds up.
It really hammers home that central point from our research, doesn't it? That fewer trucks running profitably is so much healthier than a huge fleet where a bunch of them are just running at a loss.
It flips the whole idea of a big fleet being a status symbol right on its head.
Yeah.
It forces you to be realistic. If your assets are consuming more cash and attention than they generate in return, they're anchors.
And an anchor is the last thing you want in volatile waters.
It'll sink the whole ship.
All right, so this is where, for you listening, the rubber meets the road. We need to get into those 5 specific, actionable warning signals, the red flags.
These are the markers that help you step back from that emotional attachment you have to the metal and just look at the numbers, look at the operation.
Okay, let's jump in. Signal number 1, your cash flow never settles. This sounds like a pretty common business problem, but what makes it a specific red flag for assets?
Well, the tricky thing here is that this often happens when you're really busy. The trucks are moving, revenue's coming in, but the bank balance just never seems to stabilize.
So you feel like you're succeeding, but the numbers don't show it.
Precisely. And the danger is that the assets themselves are structured to just absorb cash. You've got these high, inflexible monthly payments, plus unexpected repair bills, and suddenly the business is just a conduit for money to flow from your client to your bank and your suppliers.
Leaving nothing for you.
Exactly. A busy truck becomes a cash flow liability. You're running hard, but you're not actually building any kind of financial safety.
Which leads right into signal number 2, which is maybe a bit more specific. Certain vehicles are consistently underperforming.
Yeah, these are the chronic troublemakers. We all know the one. Every fleet seems to have that one truck or trailer that's always breaking down, always waiting for parts.
And it creates a 2-pronged problem, right?
It's a dual drain. First, obviously, it kills the profit margin on whatever job it's on. But the second drain is, in some ways, more dangerous.
Management time.
Management time. If you're spending half your week juggling mechanics and apologizing to clients because of one problem unit, that's time you can never get back. You're propping up a failure instead of building on your successes.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's talk about a big financial red flag next. Signal number 3. Debt is growing faster than profitability.
This one sounds obvious, but it's where volatility meets leverage. So you've taken on more finance, maybe refinanced at a higher rate, but your profits are flat or even shrinking.
Your exposure is just through the roof.
It skyrockets. And the long-distance sector is so vulnerable here because the margins can be incredibly tight. A sudden fuel spike, you lose one big contract, and suddenly that debt load just swamps your operating income.
You're in way over your head. And I imagine that sends a signal to everyone else, too.
No, absolutely.
Hmm.
Creditors, suppliers,
Hmm.
they see that widening gap between your debt and your income,
Yeah.
and you start to look like a much higher risk.
Which brings us to a feeling I think many owners know well. Signal 4. You are chasing volume to survive. That sense that you have to run more and more miles just to break even.
That's the financial treadmill we were just talking about. If you find you're pushing drivers into extra shifts or, taking on those low-margin jobs just to cover your costs,
Especially the finance costs on those older assets.
that's the key. That is a massive warning sign. The activity is there, but the financial reward isn't.
And what's the damage from being stuck in that spiral?
It's twofold. First, you accelerate the wear and tear on your entire fleet, not just the problem trucks.
Ah, so you're actually creating future problems.
You are. And second, you're just driving up stress for everyone in the company with no real financial upside. It's just not a sustainable way to operate.
And the final signal, number 5, is more about strategy. Your business has outgrown old decisions.
This one takes real objectivity because sometimes it means getting rid of a perfectly good asset. It's not broken, it runs fine, but it's just not fit for purpose anymore.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Maybe 5 years ago, you were all about cross-border flatbed work. But now, your best contracts are all in, say, inner-city refrigerated logistics.
So holding on to those old flatbeds?
It's not just tying up cash, it's creating strategic inertia. It's physically and financially blocking you from acquiring the assets you actually need to grow.
Holding the old prevents the new.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So when you look at all 5 of these red flags together, it seems like the decision to retrench becomes less of an option and more of an essential move.
It really does. But we have to talk about the upside. This is where the conversation needs to shift. Because when it's done right, it creates breathing room. It puts you back in control.
So let's talk about those tangible gains. What happens right after you make that tough call?
The benefits are immediate, and they're powerful. First, you get a huge reduction in your monthly financial pressure, getting those big, non-performing payments off the books.
Which has to make cash flow more predictable.
Dramatically. And because you've shed the unreliable units, your maintenance and repair costs, which are often these unpredictable budget killers, they drop.
That must free up so much mental space for management.
It's a game changer. You can actually refocus your energy on the profitable work, on the high-performing assets. When you stop chasing the problems in the bottom 20% of your fleet, you can finally invest in the top 80%.
Let me push back on that for a second, though. If I sell a truck, even a bad one, I'm still losing capacity. How do you deal with that gap?
That's a great question. And the key is you're losing busy capacity, but you're not necessarily losing profitable capacity.
Okay.
You're often shedding the very assets that made every job they touched marginal, or even a loss. So you might lose a little volume at first, but your average profit margin per mile goes way up.
And the reliability of the fleet you have left improves.
Exactly. It's a strategic shift from quantity to quality.
Which brings us to timing. I've heard this so many times, people just wait too long. Why is timing so critical?
Timing is everything. This works best when it's proactive. When you make the call on your own terms, not when the bank is forcing your hand.
Because once you're in arrears, the entire dynamic changes, doesn't it?
It changes completely. Your leverage is gone. Once the bank sees chronic late payments, their confidence in you is shaken.
And your options just start disappearing.
They shrink dramatically. But if you act early, you preserve the value of the asset you're selling, and more importantly, you protect your own credibility. And that credibility is priceless. It lets you get better terms on the vehicles you keep.
You're choosing a strategic retreat instead of being forced into a panic scramble.
That's it. It's the difference between control and crisis.
You know, when you connect all these threads, it becomes so clear that this isn't about giving up. It's about stabilization. It's a reset.
The goal is always sustainable growth. You're just shedding the dead weight so the profitable parts of your business can run faster and further. When you do it right, It becomes the foundation for your next, more profitable phase.
But this requires a kind of cold, hard objectivity that has to be almost impossible for an owner who's poured their life into every single truck.
It is nearly impossible to do alone. These decisions affect everything: your tax, your finance agreements, your operations, your long-term strategy. It's all interwoven.
And when you're in the thick of it, dealing with the daily pressure.
You just can't see clearly. You can't tell which assets are actually supporting the business and which ones are silently holding it back.
So getting that independent, objective view is what stops it from becoming that panicked scramble.
It's the difference between a data-driven decision and a panic-driven one. Look, the challenges fleet owners are facing right now, they're shared across the entire industry. But the operators who come out stronger are always the ones who know when and how to adapt.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. Let me try to summarize. Asset retrenchment isn't failure. It's a strategic restructure. If you watch for those 5 warning signals, you can proactively move from being weighed down by your assets to truly benefiting from a leaner, more robust fleet.
And maybe here's a final thought for you to take away. If we agree that adaptation is the ultimate measure of a strong operator, what's that one specific, uncomfortable decision about an underperforming asset? The one that feels too hard to make today, that will actually define your success 5 years from now.
That is a powerful question. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.